CFOs, we know, are now looking at what the future role of the office will be. Indisputably, it's come into sharp focus. And you may question why they not done so before, but we've discussed it. It's a highly liquid asset, very hard to unwind, incredibly difficult to sign a 5 or even a 10-year lease against staff headcounts when you don't know what the market looks like in 3 to 5 years, let alone 10 years. So for CFOs to unpick that, it's always been extremely difficult. But the COVID crisis has set so many hairs running about office space and remote working, what it will look like. We know from nearly all of the 60 clients we've surveyed of any size, the CFOs are asking the right questions now. They're talking to the CRE teams saying, we need to change our approach. What can you deliver? And happily, most of our CRE clients, probably because they're dealing with us, are already thinking about more agility and thinking about a different approach to workspace. So they have answers to those questions. So it's a fascinating time for the market. James touched upon this. How well does our current portfolio meet what could be out there in the future? So we've heard from very traditional clients, some of whom insist upon actually buying their own office space and occupying it on very long-term leases, that they're simply not going to do that anymore. They're going to look to right size, and we go into right sizing later on. The average calculation is what CRE costs probably make up to 12% of total costs for a business. That seems very, very toppy in this market, and given how easy it is now to take flex or other options of space. So we're going to see clients cutting back on that kind of centralized hub space and the costs that are associated with it, which will be interesting. The barrier to change is the market itself. Without being overly harsh, and there may be some conventional space advocates on the call, but for 120 years, the office market has basically served the landlord and the investor by signing long-term leases, which have benefited the funds and the investors who back those buildings. And it's all about the yield. The whole way the market even factors cost, cost per square foot, doesn't factor in a whole bunch of costs that are real to a business. The lease was designed to serve the investor and no one else in between. Now, suddenly the customer and the client is coming to, as I said, very sharp focus. And it's taken this crisis to accelerate trends we'd started to see 5 to 10 years ago, but now have become very real. The commercial real estate, in the same way retail's had a massive wake-up call, needs to work out who their client is and how to keep the client, because it's no longer a given that we're all just going to rock back up to the office. James, again, is that tally with what you as a CFO would agree with?
Yeah, completely. I think this has been a massive accelerator to change that was actually, if we were being honest, was coming, but very slowly. And I think, traditionally the lease has been seen as the cheaper option than short-term flex. But I think gradually the market is realizing that actually, although the headline cost per desk of flex space might look higher than a lease cost, actually you're only spending money on the desks you need.
That's it.
So I think particularly through this crisis where people have been unable to move out of leases when they're not been utilising their office, we will talk about the size of the portfolio and how that will reshape and change the cost base of the business. But the flexibility, the ability to actually only buy the space you need as opposed to having to provide contingency in lease space and have occupancy risk is a big shift that is also happening in the market.
And to bring Matt in now, he's returned to us from his downstairs loo and the bad signal he had down there. But Matt's been selling solutions to what I can't really name them because they're all confidential deals, but significant, some of the biggest clients in the UK. And Matt, you've seen the transformation when you have these discussions with clients and you reveal to them, well, actually, there are different ways of buying office space, but it is a moment of revelation. But sometimes those conversations are easier to have at a CFO level than they are to have at a real estate level, because that's the C-suite conversation is the one you need to convince them, right, Matt?
I think, sorry about that, everybody. I'm sure John covered my slides superbly well. I think what stands out from that period of time that I've been at Instant is from early stages, referring back to what John and James are talking about, it was moving very slowly. There was a lot of selling going on. There was this concept and idea around flex and agility and looking to the future. But because of how traditional the market was, it was moving very slowly, and you were referred to the CRE teams. Now it's a very different conversation. It's, I will be getting first up conversations with the CFO who wants to know, wants to understand, or has their own understanding of exactly what they want. And it's not just a transaction anymore, it's a strategic play for the agenda of the board, and the CFO or others have been charged with that. So the conversation has been slightly reversed, John, whereas previously I would be banging on the door to get those conversations with CFOs. I'm finding, weekly that either through LinkedIn or through reference or through CRM or through circumstance that we're going through at the moment, that the CFO is actively trying to work this kind of